the big talking point about scrapping relegation in the WSL for the next few seasons. I think we spoke about it when it first was a rumor, and we talked about, oh, don't worry, people have got to vote for it. Like, it probably won't come into fruition. And then it seems the last week or so, it's been gaining more and more traction. And you're thinking, could this actually happen? So yeah, we're just going to discuss some of the key parts in case anyone's not really aware of it, and then looking at what the impact might be. So this is from the BBC article covering it, and it's from the 26-27 season. So, of course, not this season coming, but the one after. They're talking about getting rid of relegation temporarily for 4 seasons, okay, in order to expand the league, allowing a new team from the Championship to be promoted each year, to ultimately have 16 teams in the WSL and in the Championship, okay? Now, people are saying it's not just going to be the effect on the top 2 leagues. It's, of course, going to be felt further down the pyramid. And some of the figures in this article, it says the promoted Championship club is needed to immediately spend at least £2 million just to provide the necessary infrastructure, staffing requirements, and player wages to meet the WSL's participation agreement. Okay. Now, we've seen teams yo-yo up and down the last couple of seasons, and that gap, if anything, is widening, isn't it, between the top and the bottom? Now, I'm going to try and play devil's advocate here because we know what would happen with this relegation, but could it be beneficial if clubs could see there was a safety net of no relegation, so their money will go, or they would be able to stay in the WSL longer if they were secured that spot without relegation? So essentially, would clubs be more willing to spend the money knowing that they're not going anywhere? Chloe, what do you think about all this?
I mean, I think the scrapping relegation is nonsense. Like, I was talking to someone at the game on Sunday. I was trying to remember when I went then. I was talking to someone about the game on Sunday, and because they do that in the NWSL, don't they? Like, there's no relegation in.
Yeah, close league. Yeah.
We were saying how in the NWSL it only really gets competitive in like the final couple of games, you know, when they're about to go to the playoffs, and that's when that fight and things like really start, and it's a bit boring. I'm happy about the NWSL last season, obviously, because the Pride won, which is always good when your team wins. But it's not competitive at all, and you like that competitiveness. You like the type of the little mini scraps, like. I mean, when Rachel Daly still played for Houston, Rachel Daly versus Marta was one of the best scraps I'd seen in my life. That was a corner flag when they kept moving it, top tier TV. But I just think there's no competitiveness, and from the Everton point of view, we don't have the 2 million to spend to keep us up type thing. Like we're technically considered one of the big clubs because, you know, we're getting investment now, but come like 2, even maybe 3 years, we don't have the 2 million to spend just to keep us afloat. We don't have that. So it seems a little bit pointless for us as a team just so we can stay in the top tier of football. Like, it's just, and plus you like that little scraps. You like how competitive the league is now. Like, if there's no relegation, it just won't have that same type of feel. It just won't have that same, we're just playing now. There's no like actual fight, like the top teams, who's going to win, who's going to get relegated, that type of, it's changing every week, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. It's just going to be like, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, you want the surprise, don't you? Paul, before I come to you, I'm just going to read a couple of the comments from the chat, because thank you everyone for getting involved. So we've got Rosa in the chat. Rose Talks Ball, thank you very much. No, they would not. If there's no incentive for clubs to invest, they won't. Unfortunately, the reality for most clubs is that they are still an afterthought. Yeah, and that would be a massive issue, because we've seen, you know, some clubs even to this season to date, they're not willing to put the wages up. They're not willing to do more than the bare minimum for their club to be involved. Sean's put, imagine if it does go to 16 teams, the fixture congestion would be a massive problem. Yep, because we've had complaints, the last couple of seasons, haven't we? Matthew's saying there, you need both promotion and relegation, because as Emma said, the gap in quality would be massive. Also, it would massively affect grassroots women's football and the lower leagues as well. Yes, good, because if you've got more spaces and more clubs being promoted, then the movement up the pyramid is maybe too fast for the clubs that don't have the money to keep them afloat in the upper leagues as well. But Graham's rightly said, when relegation is reintroduced, however, it's still going to be a yo-yo effect for the future teams coming up. So it'll be a closed shop pretty much, like the men's. Yeah, and Emily's saying, well, yeah, on the other hand, if there's no threat of relegation, just like Chloe was saying, they won't be motivated to invest. So it's strange, isn't it? Because people with different opinions, some are saying, well, if there's that security of, okay, well, here's a 5-year plan or a full season plan. This is the money we need. This is what we need to do. Let's stay up. Let's make the best team we can with that security that they're not going anywhere. But then other clubs, you're absolutely right, might say, well, we're not going anywhere. Why should we put more money in? Paul, we've had a lot of different viewpoints. There's a lot of different articles going around. There's lots of different podcasts even, discussing this. Where do you stand on this?
I agree with what appears to be the vast majority. It's a stupid idea. And I had to edit that because we're technically still before 9 o'clock.
Only for 3 minutes, don't worry.
For 3 minutes. But I would like to use the wording of Catherine Batt, who writes for The Telegraph now, who is one of the best women's football journalists out there. We like Catherine a lot. And on the day she came out with an article that literally said, abolishing relegation would be a betrayal of everything English football stands for.
Mm.
And I was just sat there and I tweeted about it and I was just sat there like, yes, finally, because women's football media tends to be fairly, they will criticise a bit more now, but they're fairly gentle. Like, I think we're definitely among the harshest in terms of actually openly criticising.
Yes.
So it was really nice to see someone use that level of language, because it's pretty strong words, a betrayal of everything.
Really powerful, yeah.
But it's absolutely accurate. Like it's like Emily says, if there's no threat of relegation, why the hell pay to avoid it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it is trying to introduce a closed shop by stealth, because all the WPLL want is the big brand names, like the Men's Premier League in the WSL, by hook or by crook, playing games, and so they can market it abroad with recognisable names to fans abroad. And you've got the American approach from Nikki Doucet of, these are the brand names that I recognise, these are the brand names that people in America will recognise. And to be clear, that is not any disrespect to WSL's international fans at all, because as we've seen, we had Crunk from the Shades of Blue Network on. They are passionate, they're amazing, they have to work arguably harder than we do here in England to follow their teams, and yet they still do so. So they are a huge asset to the league.
Mm.
But one of the things that attracts people to English football is the drama, promotion, and relegation. Football in general. Some of the greatest story in women's, and I know I'm slightly biased here, but the greatest story in women's football, without question, was Coventry United's Great Escape. 10 points back, and I am biased, and it doesn't get talked about as much because they got moved to rugby, so it's kind of been moved from history. But what do you remember in football? What do people remember? They remember the last day escapes. In men's football, Jimmy Glass for Carlisle on the last day. Everton have had a few narrow escapes in their history, for example. Graham Stewart scoring. It speaks to people. It's the triumph and despair of it. And sorry, but people WPLL saying, "Oh, it'll encourage people to invest." Some of these owners don't give a shit when there is a danger of them losing their money, and they need to invest to avoid losing their money. So why would they give a shit if they know their money? If they know their teams are safe, why would they give a shit if they're on the gravy train of the WSL for 5 years? Oh, it's all right. We don't need. We'll take the bare minimum and we'll use it because as well, more cynically and nefariously, women's football investment. I don't know whether it's women's football investment or income counts against PSR, the financial fair play stuff. So do losses. So they can be written off, if you like. If teams say, "Oh yeah, well, we as a club lost this much money, but a lot of it was because it was on the women's team," which then that will happen. It's like Rosa says, the best thing that has worked from a cricketing background is the governing body saying you need to put this much money in, or you don't get a team. That is probably easier with cricket, which has moved to more of a franchise background, at least in the limited overs side of the game. You don't have Warwickshire or Northamptonshire, you have Birmingham Blast or whatever, which again is Americanized and does work. But with the WSL, next we'll be having, Nikki Doucet going, right, we're going to, in order to more uniquely rebrand the teams, we're going to call the teams the Liverpool Scousers and the Everton Blue Scousers. Like,
give them a new nickname to really,
we'll call them the Red Scousers and Blue or the Liverpool Liverbirds or something. Like,
resonate with the fans in the background and all of this, and get new merch printed up. You can see that's exactly where it's going to go, and it's not going to work, because like you said, everyone, like, we're looking ahead to the championship already. That final day is going to be incredible, all of that drama.
Well, last year was as well, wasn't it? Like, because we didn't know who was going to win or who was going to get relegated, and that
was fantastic. There was so much jeopardy, and you just think that's exactly why people are watching. And like we were saying about, those closed leagues, if you reduce that competitive risk, it's just like, oh, okay, I'll watch it back. Like, there's no urgency to know what's happening, is there? I've just put it up there, but is Michelle Kang behind us?
Actually, Graham, it's funny you should mention that. Apparently, the person, one of the names that has been linked to it is Spurs owner Daniel Levi, who has mentioned many times that the American system would encourage investment in teams. It bollocks, Daniel. You don't put any money into Spurs really anyway.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't if you need more money. You might put a bit more in, but all that will happen then is Chelsea will throw more money at it. Arsenal will throw more money at it. And so it'll be a closed league where everybody's desperately trying to throw money. And teams like Spurs are spending more money to finish fifth. Like,
no, it's and Emily put something earlier about I can't find it now, but essentially there's, and the thought's completely gone out of my head, I do apologize. Full support of expanding the league, but it's not the way to do it. But I do applaud them for trying to address it and think outside the box. So we don't have an issue with the league needs to expand. It's the whole issue around the no relegation bit, isn't it? Making it closed. Because Paul, you said earlier, was it the Norwegian Federation?
It is.
Do you remember the points from there?
Yes. For the next 3 seasons, it will be one team down from the top Syrian, which is the Norwegian top league, and 3 up. So effectively expanding by 2 teams a year.
Very good.
And that, teams will put far more money in for that because, championship teams will invest far more. I saw a very good piece from Tom Gary as well. He was writing about the championship relegation battle, which again we'll talk about, which took a big twist this weekend.
It did, yeah.
Play up Pompey, but he was making the point that with the plans from WPLL, potentially now we're in a position where these teams are playing to save themselves a seat on the gravy train, because if they get relegated outside of the championship, they might not get back in.
Yeah,
they'll struggle to get back in, and that's what it is. And I'm beginning to think that WPLL may not be the amazing, revolutionary, best for women's football owners we were sold. I'm beginning to think they're a bunch of money-grabbing Americans who want to preserve the status quo only in the interest of the big clubs. And any of the championship clubs voting for this would be like turkeys voting for Christmas. It would be that stupid.
It doesn't make sense, especially from a championship perspective. Some of the other key bits from this BBC article then. So the idea, which I was kind of playing devil's advocate with, the stability bit. So they would need a 2/3 majority vote to be taken by all clubs in both tiers, so WSL and Championship. Now, what I was also going to say was, so sources at clubs higher up the table that are yet to break into the top four believe that if their future in the WSL was secure, it could encourage owners to invest more in elite facilities and girls' academies. So people at clubs are saying that, the sources. Whether we believe it or not is a different kettle of fish. Clubs could potentially offer more long-term player contracts and salaries as a result of that stability. However, of course, it goes against the fundamental values of the sport, which we have just discussed. It's that, will owners neglect or will they invest? And unfortunately, we've all kind of come to the conclusion it's going to be the neglect part, isn't it? They might surprise us, but...
It's like Rosa says, other women's leagues are now running away from the women's football model because it's not working. And it is transparently rich owners going, right, we can milk this cow until it falls over. But the way to do that is by getting in there. And the next thing we'll see is, oh well, if we'll expand, then, for the benefit of the league, we will put criteria in that just happen to only be met by Newcastle rather than Durham. So, you'll have a situation where Durham win the league but get told, oh, sorry, actually, you need this minimum level of whatever. So we're going to give Newcastle the license instead
of you. It does also say, so there's a bit saying what clubs weighing up, and one of the key things, so as well as scrapping relegation, other proposals could include a closed league, as we've said. There could also be playoffs introduced in the championship, and would also decide if relegation were to be scrapped temporarily, when it would be reinstated. So the playoff thing. So if anyone watches Serie A, they had one format, and then they changed it a few seasons ago to include a playoff. So what they do now, they have their regular season, which is 18 matches, and then they split off into the Champions Group and the relegation round. So a group, five in each. If you're in the second group, the relegation group, what has happened in the past is that the bottom team gets automatically relegated, and then the second off bottom team will be in a playoff, a bit similar to the men's playoffs, with the second team in Serie B. Okay. Now, what they're doing to it because they're wanting to expand the league as well. This next season coming, they're just doing one relegation spot, which is unfortunately looking like Sampdoria at the moment. And they're going to promote 3 teams from the second division this season. So they're scrapping the playoffs as is. And then they're moving forward like that. So again, they're keeping relegation, but they're promoting more teams until they've expanded enough that they can grow. It does then affect second division and so on, but yeah. So do we think? I think what Graham said earlier as well. Would a 2 up, 1 down make more sense? So you've at least got that security, if it were, that at least one of those promoter teams is going to stay up. With that,
I say 3 up, 1 down.
3 up, 1 down. Yeah, even now.
3 up, 1 down, and do it quickly. And you encourage investment by turning around and saying, right, okay, if you finish above bottom, then you're guaranteed to cut. Then you're guaranteed you're all right. You know, you're safe. If not, you go down, and at the end of the couple of years, you might not get back up because we're going to go back to 2 up, 2 down or whatever.
And have that consequence ready. Like, right, you've got however many seasons to get yourself together, essentially. Put your money where your mouth is, and hopefully grow the women's side of your club.
Or even 3 up. If you're only going to expand by 1 a season, spread it out a bit. 3 up, 2 down.
Yeah.
Really, because it's the same thing as 2 up, 1 down, but there's more jeopardy for the WSL.
Yeah.
And there's more encouragement for people to come up.
And as Rosa rightly says as well, it also makes tier 3 teams want to get into the championship because there's more motivation to actually get out of the championship and stay out if that happens. Yeah, 100%. It's so frustrating because the people who are making the decisions, it doesn't sound like, yes, they've got to get the opinions of the clubs and whatever, but hopefully this kind of outrage around it has made them rethink. It might not, but hopefully, because we can't lose that element of the game, can we? It's going to be soul destroying if they take that out. So, hi everyone, Freya here. Thank you so much for watching the Absolute Football Podcast. Please don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, follow, love, whatever you need to do to make sure you don't miss a single moment. Remember, you can watch one of the videos that are on screen now. And don't forget, of course, our women's football show, the Absolute Women's Football Show, is live every single Wednesday at 8:30 with yours truly and a fantastic panel. Join me each week and special guests as well. So remember to like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you in the chat next Wednesday.